and welcome to the last in this four-part series of the Passion Week. Thank you for joining me for the last three of them and for being here today as well, listening to this one. Today we want to look at a portrait of obedience. We've already looked at a portrait of faith, one of worship, and one of leadership. And today we want to look at a portrait of obedience. And we find that in Luke chapter 22 and verse 42. Now the context of this is Jesus has been betrayed, or at least he knows Judas has gone to betray him. And he's gone out to the Garden of Gethsemane with his disciples. He's told them to pray. He knows that this night he will be arrested. He knows that by the next day he will be crucified. He's already told the disciples, my hour has come. This is what he'd come for. So he knows, and he's gearing up for it. He's getting ready for it emotionally and physically. He's getting himself ready for it mentally. And he's in the garden and he's praying. And he goes to the Father and he says, Father, if you are willing, then remove this cup from me. Now what is the cup that Jesus was asking about? It was the cross. The next day and all that was going to happen the next day. The brutality of the cross, and if you want to see a little more of that, you can watch the Passion of Christ movie. You can tune into our Good Friday service that happened and you can listen to that as well. Or any Good Friday service will tell you about the ugliness of the cross, the brutality of a cross. And so Jesus knows the torment and the torture he's going to go through at the hands of the Romans the next day and at the hands of the Jewish Pharisees that night. He knows already. He knows that he's going to face the rejection of the people that he has invested in all these years. His disciples will flee, they'll all leave him and run. Even Peter, who said, no, never, no chance. Even if I have to die, even if unto death, I will not leave you. Jesus already told him, by tomorrow morning, before the rooster crows, 3 times, Peter, 3 times you will disown me. So he knows there's a pain of rejection that's coming his way as well. He knows he's going to be all alone in this. But it gets worse. He knows that for a brief time, he will become sin. As 1 Corinthians tells us, as 2 Corinthians tells us. He will become sin. The sinless God, Jesus, who was there at creation, Jesus who has existed for all eternity in purity, who has walked on the face of the earth undefiled, who took on the devil and resisted him, who showed and showcased to us what an obedient life to the Father looks like, would now voluntarily become our sin. He would put it on himself. And in doing so, he would incur the wrath of heaven upon him that was destined for you and me. He knew that relationship with the Father, that the Father and Son had for all eternity in the past. He knew that the next day it would be broken. Now I don't know if you've ever, gone to a shop in your colony and you've seen the same shopman there for, the shopkeeper has been there for a few weeks, and then you go one day and then he's not there, and I remember I had a vegetable guy that I used to go buy from, and he was an elderly uncle who used to sit there and do the billing. And then one day when I went, I didn't see him, and there was a younger guy sitting there with a few others, and I said, what happened to that elderly man? And they said, no, he died. He died. I had been away for a month and a half, and I was going back to this place after quite some time, and they said he died. He had a heart attack and died. And I was shaken by that. And I came home and I told my wife, I was like, wow, this happened, and I can't believe so quickly life changes. But then the next day I got back to it because there was no deep relationship. There was no deep relationship. See, the deeper the relationship, the deeper the pain of the break in that relationship. The longer the relationship has lasted, the more intimate the relationship, the deeper the pain when it breaks. Now, imagine with me someone that you loved and you walked with all your life. The separation from them is unbearable. The pain is unbearable in that separation. And you're just talking about life here, 50 years, 70 years at best, with a person. Now imagine God the Father and God the Son. Jesus says for all eternity. Imagine the depth of that relationship. All eternity they have been. And for a moment it was going to break. The Father would forsake the Son, would turn his back on the Son and then pour out all his anger on the Son. Anger that was directed actually to you and to me. But by the love of heaven, it fell on Jesus. Jesus knows all that is coming and he says, Father, if it's possible, could you remove this cup from before me? If there's any other way, God. But then you find his portrait of obedience, where he says, yet not my will, but your will be done. I tell you the truth, no other person has held a cup of suffering so deep, so painful, so tragic, so heartbreaking, so hopeless as the cup that Jesus had that day. Metaphoric cup that he had that day. Nobody else will ever suffer the amount that Jesus suffered. And yet he says, Father, your will, not mine. And that is a portrait of obedience, my brother, my sister. When the Bible calls us to obey Jesus and to walk behind him, to obey the word of God and to give our life to it, that is the portrait of obedience for us. It might be difficult. It might be a cup that is bitter. It might be a cup that you don't like. It might be a cup that you don't prefer. Let's be honest. We don't even have a cup that is near as bad as Christ's. Ours, compared to what Jesus had to go through, ours are mere inconveniences. But do we have the guts? Do we have the heart and the obedience to say, Lord, not my will, but your will be done? My brother, my sister, that prayer will radically change your prayer life, because you know how long to pray. Pray as long as it takes to bring your heart to the place where you can truly say, not my will, but your will be done. Live in such a way. Study the word in such a way. Put people in your life in such a way so that your life will be able to say easily to God, not my will, but your will be done. Lord, whatever you want to do, you do. Don't do what I want to do, because your ways are so much higher than mine. That is the portrait of obedience. And my prayer for you, my prayer for me, is that God would make us people who are obedient to him in all that we do and in all that we are. God bless you.